Scion is positioned as a more compact, accessible ping phone. What problem were you trying to solve that the 2.16 Ultra couldn't?
We were not really trying to solve a problem. The reason for Scion is there are some Ultras in music system where I think the Scion would be a better pick. And the reason is that the Ultra is a very, very revealing, very sensitive product. So to get the most out of Ultra, you really need a system that's on par with the quality. And not everyone
Can afford.
or has the space or for a system like that. Still, they prefer the Pinkphone musicality. So, and we only had one unit, that was the Ultra Streamer. So for those customers, we really wanted to bring something that fits their system. Also, the Scion is more affordable than the Ultra. I mean, that's just how it is. So that was the goal for the Scion, to use it in a wider variety of system and also to bring people closer into the world of Pinkphone, to easier to get into the world of Pinkphone.
What are the non-negotiable that had to remain ping phone even with a smaller platform?
That was the challenge. Of course, the linear power supply, and what we just spoke about is the no sound, just music. So developing Scion, it must have the same organic and natural impact as the Ultra, but on a different scale. That was not easy, by the way, to create, but I think we succeeded.
How do you define success?
The emails that we receive from customers or phone calls, people that order the Scion, hook it up in the system, and after 2 days we get emails. That's what drives me. So we don't share those emails because a lot of them are personal, but that's, you can see what an impact music, real music can make in people's life. And that's how I define a successful product.
So positive customer feedback.
Oh, yes.
Was Scion built for a different listener profile, a different room, or a different system philosophy?
Philosophy is no sound, just music, and a lot of our customers are in the same direction. So the philosophy for the Scion is not really different than the philosophy of Ultra, but it's indeed built for different systems. It's also the space. Do you have space for this, or the Scion is much more compact? And also, that was another thing that we want with Scion. It's an easier to live with product. For example, the Ultra is a very, very sensitive unit when it comes to feed, the rack, the power cord, you name it. If you turn it off from the electricity, it takes 2-3 days to get the full quality back of the Ultra because of the clocking technology. And the Scion, we just wanted to create something that's just easier. Basically, the Scion, you can just put it in the rack, hook up cables, and you can play music. You don't have to worry too much about the tuning or the rack or the feed or everything else. Of course, it makes an impact, but the overall impact is less sensitive than the Ultra Streamer.
What's the biggest engineering challenge in a compact server streamer, and which one dominated Scion?
In a compact chassis, the challenge is to bring the linear supply and of course the quality that you want into a compact chassis, but that is more from an engineering side. In general, whether it's the Ultra Streamer or the Scion, the biggest challenge is software. I mean, we can build reliable hardware. Reliable software is a different story, and that's why we put a lot of time and money in to make the user experience as great as possible.
Why is the software matter?
It always changes. So there can be rune updates, Cobus Connect updates, changes in the network. There was always something going on. So that was the first thing we did, was creating the Pinkphone OS platform, but also with a very solid update server behind it. So updates can be pushed very easy to our products so that we guarantee that they are always on the best performance and the latest that are necessary.
I heard that a rune update makes the sonic changes.
Yeah, it can. Without giving away too much, we treat Rune in a slightly different way. So the Pinkphone is less sensitive for the Rune updates.
What is Scion's power supply strategy and power domain separation philosophy, and what sonic behavior were you chasing?
The power supply design is always linear power supply, and the Scion has, for example, 2 transformers where we can separate the computer hardware and the output card. In the Ultra we have 3 transformers, so there is more separation. And if you go with a dual ultras, as we have here, there is even further separation. So separating is really something that we believe in when we develop the products.
In Scion, well, where do you believe the biggest timing errors come from, and how do you control them?
That is software. The software makes a bigger impact than maybe people think, and a lot of timing and jitter is indeed how software is behaving and how data is routed.
You mean how the software is taxing the processor, is it?
Yeah, that is partially hardware and partially software, but indeed the processor is generating noise, which has also a direct impact on the timing, and that's where some of the magic lies. It's basically the combination hardware-software, and that's why I'm so happy we have now hardware and software development under one roof, which basically means they go hand in hand also during the developing process. So it's not only software or only hardware, it's always the combination of the two.
If Scion supports multiple digital output interfaces, what's your hierarchy and what system conditions change that recommendation?
The DAC. That's why we have dedicated interface for I2S, ASABU, USB. So it's not that we have one board with a range of digital outputs. No, every digital output has its own dedicated board with its own power supply design, with its own clocking technology. So for us, we don't favor one output over the other. We just make sure that every output is on the best level of performance that we can make. And then it's up to the DA converter the customer have to determine which is the best connection.
How tightly is Scion tied to PinkPhone OS, and what parts of the OS stack actually matter for audible performance?
A lot. So without PinkPhone OS, we couldn't develop Scion because we were working with a third party, which was too expensive to use for the Scion. So having PinkPhone OS and develop everything in-house, cross platforms, is opened us for us the door to develop the Scion music server. And the biggest impact that we have developing software is in the driver technology. So driver development is for us the most important one. We bought the software from a third party. It was good software, or don't get me wrong, but I believe that if we want to build the best music server in the market, we need hardware and software under one roof because they work so much together, we cannot separate the two. So we were always having the feeling that we had a hardware platform which was very good. We had a very good software platform, but we always felt we didn't get the 100% integration between the two.
What did you intentionally keep simple in Scion, and where did you keep it pro level, even if it's harder?
You could say keeping things simple is always best. For example, when you look in the power supply or when you look in the code of the software, we always try to keep it simple, which is also difficult. So keeping things simple is also difficult to do. But in the Scion, to give a real example, is we kept the output card relative simple compared to what we have in the Ultra, but we went all in with the power supply for the output card.
If an audiophile hears Scion for the first time, what should they listen for first, and what would be a wrong conclusion from a quick demo?
A quick demo is not what we prefer. So we always talk with our distributors and dealers and sometimes customers. If you want a demo of PinkPhone Streamer, always have it for at least 4 or 5 days. First of all, in the Ultra, we have the clocking that needs to stabilize. That is one. The Scion is easier to set up, but our products are designed to make music. So we are not aiming a spectacular impact in the first 5 or 10 minutes. So the feedback we get from a lot of our customers is they need to change a bit in the way they listen to the music. What I mean by that is if you chase sound, the PinkPhone is not really the product for you. If you change musical impact, then the PinkPhone products are for you. For example, detail. The first time you listen to a PinkPhone, a lot of people are commenting like, where is the detail? And it is there, but it's not thrown at you very harsh and analytical, and there it is. So it's very subtle. And that's why a short demo does not do right to the product. And the best way to do is, if you listen a few days, go back to your original situation, and that's where you are going to appreciate the presentation of the pink phone.
So you gotta do the ABA.
Yeah, and take some time, because we aim for a different presentation. It's easy in digital to create extreme detailed sound, but that's not music for me.
It's more like long-term swaps. And